I'm recording then. Hi, YouTube. It's been a while since I've recorded one of these videos because I have been traveling, but I have been thinking about this cube nonstop. I have not stopped thinking about it, and I'm holding myself to this standard of actually making sure that every time I'm editing the cube, I'm recording a video. So I have not actually changed any cards, even though I've done a bunch in my head. But as you can see, we got a special guest on this episode. I don't know what this is yet, but on this video, we're talking about the cube design, which is, of course, the one and only Ryan Overturf, host of the 540, writer for Star City Games. What's your other favorite accolade?
Well, my current project is a 180 MTG. That's the new pod.
Of course.
Quick what's up to all the gamers.
Yeah, check out 180 MTG. I've been listening to that as well. Love the proliferation of podcasts in the cube scene. Never have to listen to a regular non-cube Magic podcast ever again because there's enough cube podcasts out there. I've got you on for a special reason, which is I completely stole. You posted on Blue Sky some time ago about how you really like the interaction between Chromanticore and Soulflayer. And if I remember correctly, you said this was playable in some sort of constructed format. Give me the full history on this card interaction.
Yeah, this deck actually took me to a Pro Tour. It was the first, when the qualifying system was PPTQs into the regional Pro Tour qualifier. It was the first season of that. And this was a deck that this interaction was known, but it was kind of just thought of as a meme. There was one Pro Tour where the team did show up with it, but they didn't do great. I think that was after. The deck was okay for a brief window after Dragons of Tarkir, before Esper Dragons took off, because you could give hexproof as well. Sylvan Caryatid was a really important card in the deck.
Ooh.
And it was really fun to play that way too. So just to talk, I can talk more about the deck than the history. I know that I played Thoughtseize. The mana base was funky. It was base Jund splashing blue and white, because you did just cast and bestow Chromanticore sometime.
I was curious about that specific detail. I didn't know if it ever got cast or bestowed, or if it was purely just discard fodder for the Soulflayer.
Yeah, you sometimes just cast it, and the mana base was really funny because you played Wooded Foothills and Bloodstained Mire because you only had allied fetch lands, which gave you really high access to red, so Tormenting Voice was one of your graveyard enablers. And it was Khans of Tarkir standard, so you had the original Tri-lands, so you would play Abzan and Sultai Tri-lands, and those in Sylvan Caryatid would give you access to the full 5 colors of mana, so you would actually cast it sometimes. And in the match that I won to qualify for the Pro Tour, I was playing against a mono red deck where when I got to 5 mana, I cast Chromanticore, and my opponent spent a bunch of resources with the red deck to kill it, and then I immediately just bestowed it or delved it to Soulflayer, and that's how I won the match.
Nice. So they spent 2 burn spells to get rid of their 4 toughest creature, and then you were just like, that's okay, I'll just give you a hexproof one now, probably, because I also have my Caryatid in the graveyard.
Yeah, the Caryatid was nice because it could get into the graveyard by blocking, so there was a lot of ways to get it going.
As you can see, I've already added that to the maybe board here, because part of the reason I want to talk about this with you is I want to figure out some way to support this in this cube. You mentioned you've been following along a little bit, so you kind of know the shtick of the cube. I guess I should mention for people that are just watching this maybe for the first time. I'm doing a whole video series on the design of this cube, and I'm still in the very, very early stages of it. This is still a hot mess. It is not pretty yet, but it will be pretty someday, I hope. And so I'm trying to capture that all on video for people's benefit. And yeah, the shtick of the cube is basically that I'm forcing people to play with almost the entire pool of cards they draft. You draft 45 cards as typical. You play a 40 card deck as typical, but it is a desert cube, so you cannot add any basic lands, which means you only get 5 cuts from the cards you draft. And what I'm trying to do, as I'm sure you've seen, is get people to play with janky, weird cards and janky, weird synergies that they might otherwise overlook in a typical cube draft, and just say, oh, that's too cute. That's, too magical Christmas land. I'm just going to pass that over for something a little more reliable or a little more, straightforward. And the fact that I'm making people play so many of their cards, I'm just forcing everyone to have a little bit of a janky deck and hopefully revel in that jank. And I can't even explain why this particular combination really just fits the vibes for me. I think it's that Soulflayer is, first of all, just a super cool card. This card rules. It's the art is sick. The fact that it's pretty bad Gurmag Angler that also can possibly get all these keyword abilities with this weird upside. It's very, very cool. And then Chromanticore is also a card I've always kind of really had an affection for. Just a super weird 5-color payoff that is just like a big Baneslayer angel that you can also bestow on something. Yeah, I don't know. It's just these two cards just speak to me. They don't really actually have anything to do mechanically with what the cube is about. I guess Chromanticore is kind of interesting in that your colors and mana are hard to come by here because you have to draft all your lands, so it's just an extra sort of achievement to sort of cast it. But for some reason, they really fit the vibes. And so I am hoping to basically support these cards independently and together as a package. How would you go about that if you were in my seat? Just to throw it over to you, I mean, what would you be looking for to try and support these cards?
Yeah, I do agree with you. As weird as Chromanticore is, when like you're not sure what you're playing, I think like a solution a player might try to tackle this environment with is to try to play a five color deck. But I assume you're not going to push the mana base so that it's easy or that'll happen very often. And as such, Chromanticore is like not worth it. You know what I mean? Like if you happen to have pretty good mana and you can line it up, you'll play it, but it's not like you see it and you're like, I have to make the mana work. This card is too strong. So
Right,
it's
because
really
it still
cool
just
in that
dies to
space.
any removal spell. Like it's just a Baneslayer Angel, you know. It's a fine threat, but yeah.
Yeah, and like bestowing it is strong, but that's 7 mana too. Um, I think that these two cards, like the Chromanticore, if you can just cast it, it is reasonably strong without being overpowered. And like bestowing it's a good goal. With Soulflayer, I mean, Delve is a powerful mechanic. As you play Magic, your graveyard will kind of fill up naturally. And a 2 mana 4/4 is probably going to be like pretty strong to cast if you can like two spell in this environment, if you get about one or two keywords. I've been messing with this interaction in an environment that pushes it a little bit more strongly. So I have like a lot of double strike, and so you can have like archetypes with the other mechanics involved here. You can have like life gain matters or life link matters or double strike, the example I was just using. Um, I think that's something. How do you feel about morph in this cube?
I love Morph here so far. I think it's exactly the kind of mechanic I want to support because what I really am aiming for is I want the environment to be weird and janky. I want you to like have to cobble together a like, you know, pretty questionable deck. Like that's kind of the spirit of the environment. But I don't want people to be stuck with literally unplayable cards. Like I don't want people to be like, well, I literally have to put two cards. I have literally no hope of casting in my deck. They are worse than Darksteel Relic, right? I don't want people to be in that spot. And to me, morphs fill this perfect role of like on color, a morph is hopefully pretty good in this environment, the ones I'm actually adding. But then off color, it is still literally playable. You can actually just play a 3 mana 2/2, and that will be pretty bad as just a 3 mana vanilla 2/2 in any deck that you're playing. I guess with a little bit of bluff equity, no matter what. Like, that's kind of interesting. But at least it's playable, right? Like, it does something. And then what I'm really hoping for a lot is that because you're also drafting all of your lands, you know, I think dual lands are going to be very high picks here because you have to draft all your mana sources, period. And so, like, if a basic land is a pretty high pick, you know, Pain Land or certainly a Surveil Land is a crazy high pick. And so what I'm hoping is that a lot of people will end up having taken, you know, a black-white dual land because they needed the white source for their white-red deck. And then, you know, scraping, they just decide to play a Pheto Exterminator as one of their, like, scraping cards because it's a morph they can, you know, play. But then, you know, every once in a while, one of those two lands that taps for black will actually manage to unmorph the Pheto Exterminator. Like, those kinds of really fringe potential upsides on those splashes are the kinds of things I want to happen a lot here. And so, as a long-winded answer to your question, I'm really excited about Morph here and trying to figure out exactly which Morph cards are the right fit and how to sort of make it a thing.
For sure. Yeah, that's I definitely like Morph a lot here. I'm glad that that's the page that you're on. It makes a lot of sense. Something you can always play. And there's, of course, a range in power levels in Morph, as you alluded to there. I have a specific card in mind, but I have another question before we get there. One of the mechanics that Soulflayer does support is hexproof, like you were lining up the Curiata. But how do you feel about hexproof generally?
Um, it's not my favorite keyword mechanic. I like interactive magic, and I guess the answer is I think it probably has its place. In one of my cubes, my Sacred Geometry cube, I have really come around on Dungrove Elder as a really sweet card for the green deck. It's just the right environment where I don't play a lot of tokens and I avoid complicated wordy cards in that cube. And those two restrictions mean that it kind of hamstrings mid-range a little bit against control decks specifically, because if your cards aren't making other game pieces and they don't have an enter the battlefield ability and an activated ability and a leave the battlefield ability, they don't have all this other sort of text piled onto them, then they tend to just be pretty bad against removal. And so in that environment where otherwise I would have avoided, things like hexproof in my other cube designs and just said, well, instead of hexproof, let's just play, creatures that have an ETB ability so that if it gets removed, it's not a big deal or whatever. There, because I just am hamstrung by my complexity budget, I've actually really enjoyed having the occasional hexproof thing as just a means of being basically an anti-control card. And I think it's a matter of dialing in the power level, right? Like if the best creature in your deck also happens to have hexproof on top of being the best creature already, that I think is pretty bad. But if it's like a little below rate and the hexproof is making it sort of hang with the rest of the threats, then I think it has its place. I'm softening on it a little bit, I guess.
Okay.
So
There's
here,
a possibility that the card that I'm going to suggest is above rate for this environment, but it's good to delve to Soulflayer. It's good to bestow Chromanticore onto Natural Curve there. And the card is Sagu Mauler, which I adore. It's just this big dumb idiot.
Oh, nice. And like it's got trample. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, that's got morph. It's got all the things. Yeah, I think in this context, like hexproof here, like I think on a 6-drop, yeah, this card's cool. I don't know. I could see this being a thing for sure.
I think that if you're playing like a deck full of removal spells, this is like not that strong. I think it's probably frustrating if you just have a deck where you're playing morphs that maybe you can't activate all the time. Like some of the more modest morphs, you're gonna feel not great if your opponent flips this up and that's what you have. Like a lot of the onslaught era morphs are on the weaker side, but certainly I think this card is just sweet.
It is very cool. I agree. And just to clarify, too, I am absolutely not at the point in this cube where I can say with any confidence what I think the power level is going to be. So I think all recommendations are fair game. Obviously, I think, Fable and Mirror Breaker is probably too good. We can rule some things out, I think, with a little bit of confidence. But I think this is definitely well within the boundaries of what I could possibly see working here. And I especially like that it's expensive. So, if you're just... I don't know if this is the kind of cube yet where you could just play lands to 6 mana and then play a big 6-drop and ride that to victory. I also don't know if I'd be okay with that, but I think certainly the most powerful thing to do with this to me would seem to be to discard it to your Soulflayer and then just delve it away and, get a much cheaper, potentially large hexproof threat.
Yeah, I like that there is tension to morphing it because 5 mana is markedly cheaper than 6 mana, but 2/2 with no abilities is way more vulnerable than 6 toughness hexproof.
For sure, yeah. Cool. Good suggestion already. Love that.
Yeah, that's a sweet one. I assume you already have a Zombie Cutthroat in your list. It's not related to the Soulflayer stuff, but I just love that in the realm of morphs.
Yes, this card is just... I'm really into Paying Life in this cube. I don't know why. I'm into Paying Life in almost all cubes, but no, this one's great. Super sick as keeping everybody honest on all, using removal spells on any morphs in the entire environment because it could just be flipped up to become 4 toughness. Yeah, card's super sick. How? Go ahead.
I'm thinking about Paying Life and keywords and just, riffing off of the words that I'm hearing, but Vault Scourge is a card that is pretty easy to get into your graveyard by casting it.
Yeah, Vault Scourge is in here, and that is one of the ones I have, earmarked as at least it's got 2 keywords. It's something like that. This is the kind of cube where I think, sometimes you're going to get to delve away your Chromanticore to Soulflayer, and sometimes you're just going to get a Vault Scourge and maybe some other sort of trinket and add those things up to something worthwhile. This one I think is an easy dunk for sure. I love Vault Scourge a lot. Let's talk a little bit. If you don't mind, I'm curious to know what you think about redundancy for the Soulflayer itself. Obviously, there's a lot of keyword abilities on creatures, and we could take any number of them and stick them in here. Either ones with a lot of keyword abilities or ones with just particularly powerful keyword abilities like your double strikes, your indestructibles, your hexproof, stuff like that. There are cards that are effectively very similar to the Soulflayer, and I'm curious to know what you think of them. I have tagged a bunch here in the sideboard that I've at least sort of pulled out as maybe fitting this package. So some of them, like Urborg Scavengers, I think I can pretty safely say this is going to be a pretty above rate in this cube. This might be a problem just because graveyard's going to matter a lot here, and so this being pretty effective grave hate while also having the upside of being like a very good Soulflayer impression is something. The one I like the most flavor-wise is Deathmask Duplicant, but it really bugs me that so many things were not keyword abilities at this time. Vigilance was not a keyword ability at this time, and Lifelink was not a keyword ability at this time. So, and it also neither was hexproof, so you can get like protection, but you can't get.
I love that it shouts out Landwalk and protection.
Right.
Like just such a nonsense selection of abilities on this one.
I know, and like flavor-wise, like the art, the fact that it's an artifact, like that fits this cube so well. But the fact that it misses on like some pretty important abilities is a bummer. And I also kind of don't want you to have to worry about which cards care about which abilities. Like if you have a couple of these in your deck and some of them care about some abilities, other ones care about others. Cairn Wanderer, I think, is a much closer overlap with the ones. It has Shroud Knot Hexproof. That's a real thing. But it has, Lifelink and Vigilance at least, which is nice. I hate the art on this one. I hate the stupid Lorwyn Changelings. Ugh.
I was laughing to myself about the art for this card because of a specific interaction. I posted about this to Cash Grab from Bloomburrow and Kieran West, specifically using that. It's a self-mill card. You mill your top 4, and you can put a creature from them into your hand. And if that creature is a squirrel, you make a food token. It's CACH, yeah. You get any permanent, but if you get a squirrel, or if you control a squirrel, you make a food. And just like the idea of somebody collecting Cairn Wanderer and being like, that's a squirrel is just really funny to me.
There he is, a squirrel. God, I hate that guy.
I think that Cairn Wanderer, like the one black pip, like the modest body there. I hear what you're saying about like the aesthetic, but I think that the shape of this card is really nice. I agree that Urborg Scavengers is kind of pushing it. I think that the selection of keywords on Deathmask Duplicate, I agree that it's frustrating in like doing the cool thing. I think it's a pretty funny conversation starter. Like it's a 7-mana 5/5, and if you pay 1 more mana, you could give it haste. Like, come on, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? But this is like a card where if you have to play all your cards, I guess 7-mana 5/5 is making the deck. So I like that in this environment.
Haste not actually on the list. Oh no, it is. It's there. I lied. I can't read. It's right in the middle there. Yeah, I'm already annoyed at having to read that, but I agree. Like, I don't know. Like, I want this to be a lower power environment, so like the idea of making this good is appealing to me, but that stupid keyword thing is really annoying. A funky one I found, which I'm curious to get your opinion on, is the Mimeoplasm, which,
I love the Mimeoplasm.
Yeah, I only remember this from the very early days of Commander, and yeah, basically you can enters the battlefield, it becomes a copy of one creature with the power and toughness of another creature in your graveyard, which I think no matter what you think about it, is probably going to make this list because it also has an overlap with like the Dreadnought package, basically, like these big overcosted creatures. The idea that you could like exile, like a Chromanticore and a Dreadnought and be like, now this creature's like enormous is very cool to me. Do you feel like this works and fits with the idea of the cards?
Yeah, I think that if you're in an environment, like something I've been working on is just way more really pushing Chromanticore and Soulflayer, where your environment, you're just like playing Magic.
I'm playing
giant
with it, yeah.
monsters. Yeah, I think the Mimeoplasm really fits your environment, and like it's just a sweet card to cast, and then it's a really cool moment when you do set it up with a Chromanticore, and it's a reason to put a Chromanticore that you can't necessarily cast in your deck, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, I should say too, there's a ton of discard outlets in this cube across all the colors, basically, because I want you to be able to do something with cards that are either, very difficult for your deck to cast or impossible for your deck to cast at that moment, or just way off strategy. Like, this is not a card that you care about or want right now. And so being able to discard for some value is an upside. And so I hope that will happen a lot, is you'll play a Chromanticore in a deck where you're like, I have no way to cast this Chromanticore, but I have 3 cards that care about it in the graveyard. And so I will just discard it to Zombie Infestation every time and have it make half a zombie. And then hopefully, later on for value, get to use it with the Mimeoplasm or Soulflayer or something. Yeah. Okay.
That sounds sweet. I'm super into that one.
How many cards do you want in your deck with keyword abilities before you're like excited about Soulflayer? Do you think that's okay as just sometimes a 2-mana 4/4 in the mid to late game?
In the environment here, the rate, just like being able to delve a creature, seems like I won't be looking for a ton. The double black pips you do kind of have to work for,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot of cards that are just going to play reasonably. Like the Vault Scourge was a funny example because that card can chump block if you're really doing it, but a card like stuff that like, do you have Vampire Nighthawk? I think that that would be like a card I'd be pretty excited to have in my deck if I could cast it. That gives you several appealing keywords on it.
I don't have that one in here right now. I think it'd be quite good, and definitely fits the prompt of having some good keywords on it. Yeah, this card is always just. I mean, I'm a notorious lifelink detractor in Magic, especially at like, fair, reasonable Magic. Obviously, I'm okay with it here because we're talking about Chromanticore. Like, this is going to be a much weirder environment. It's more about synergy, so that's not my concern about this here. Yeah, that certainly fits the bill in terms of being like a good bread and butter playable that has this like major upside if you get to combine it with Soulflayer.
Yeah, and if it's giving you something that you don't want a ton of in the environment, I do think that this is the kind of cube. Certainly, we're talking about playing morphs just to have playables,
Right.
where pips can really restrict what players are able to do. So it's not going to be very easy to take this lane. You got Hakken too. That's a sweet one.
Yeah, I'm gonna do hacking stuff in this cube. I've been talking about this in the Discord with people, and everyone keeps telling me that they think this card is like undersupported, as if they think you need to have a bunch of knights in your deck. I'm like, you just can't kill it. It's just an unkillable 3/3. Like, that's just good on its own. It doesn't need other knights. It's just good against anything but Grave Hate, basically, or exile removal. Yeah, I think Hacken's gonna be.
I think
cool
it's
here.
also the kind of thing that those comments will probably stop when you start playing in the queue, when people realize just how much you are scraping when you only get 5 cuts.
Right.
There's actually like the card list and the texture of your environment is really different, but I never played somebody else's Desert Cube until I designed my own, and I was just unaware that most people just give you more packs and you draft more cards.
Gotcha.
So, because it doesn't make sense. Like, why, if you want to draft basic lands and it's an appeal, I never thought to draft more cards because then it's just easier.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I have played. An aspect of that environment is like there's a lot of multiples. Everything comes in at least 3 copies, and I played a one Squadron Hawk in a deck once, and like that's just a thing that happens when you don't get that many cuts.
Squadron Hawk and Fail to Find. Do I have the other one in my hand? Who's to say?
I got to shuffle away a card that my scrying sheets didn't draw.
There you
I
go.
won that game.
Gas.
So.
Gasoline.
It was sweet.
Yeah, I'm really into janky Magic right now, and making people do weird shit and jump through hoops to like just accomplish very basic things like put a decent creature in play. And so, yeah, I still don't. I'm interested to see what the texture of this environment ends up being, and I'm hoping I'm not like over-indexing on like weird synergistic combos such that it becomes just kind of like a weird combo cube. I want there to be more like janky, I guess what I'm saying is I want you most of the time to just play Soulflayer and not have a Chromanticore to delve away, or do something. I guess you're already kind of using the Chromanticore in the non-ideal way if you're delving it away to Soulflayer, but I want you to have to use these cards in like weird, strange ways to get value out of them, and not just always do the best possible thing. So you were talking about like the cube, you were optimizing the Soulflayer Chromanticore interaction, and this will be like a maybe thing here sometimes. But I think oftentimes these cards will just be appealing enough in other decks they won't even end up together, and so it's more about just like how do I sprinkle enough other things through that there's more fun moments like. People discovering the Soulflayer Chromanticore moment. Will they also discover, the Soulflayer? Like, I think I'm definitely going to put Swiftblade Vindicator in here as another, like, really sort of tidy package where it's, like, just a castable 1/1, but then these keyword abilities are insane, obviously, and so you play this, early game and then just let it die and then, delve it away with Soulflayer, but that's across 3 colors, of course, which is already going to be kind of funky. But I like that one for being just, like, I don't know. I feel like a 1/1 with double strike, vigils, and trample just inspires so many potential other combinations, right? Like, also, like you said, an insane thing to bestow your Chromanticore onto. It already has vigils and trample. Now you give it double strike too, which is kind of nuts. Yeah. Let's go back to what other things I found for this package. I'll get your opinion on them. I had a couple of just indestructible things in here with the idea that maybe you would just, play a stupid Dark Steel Mirror either as a, blocker for all time or as something to get rid of to your Soulflayer, which I feel medium about. I think the more powerful cards that have indestructible are all the gods. I think just Xenagos is the one I pulled out as like a representative god, but obviously there's a bunch of those, which I think are more powerful cards that would give you also the opportunity to sneak some indestructible in there, which I feel, I don't know about. Koronos is another, or Konoros is another just, keyword ability pile. What do you think about something like Odric the Blood Cursed?
This card is fine. I think it actually plays really well in this environment because if you just are playing with creatures in Magic, like your red deck is going to have some amount of haste and first strike. Your white deck is going to have some amount of first strike, vigilance, maybe some lifelink, maybe less lifelink in your cubes than in other people's cubes. Menace will be around. I think making a couple bloods is just going to be strong in this environment. This is a card that like didn't fit in the space I was playing in, but it makes a lot of sense here. I really like the mono white Odric, the 4-mana 3/3.
Yeah.
Gives all your creatures abilities every combat.
I didn't add that one in, but the Lunarch Marshal, right? Yeah. Because the Master Tactician sucks. That's the one that lets you choose how people block. Boo. Let people block. Boo. This one has Skulk on it. We can give everything Skulk.
That's what you always wanted.
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I had put Thunderous Orator in here, but I think Odric is so much cooler. Like, it does the same-ish thing in a much more inspiring way. Like, obviously, it's more powerful because it gives it to all your creatures, but it also costs 4 mana as opposed to being like a 2-mana 2/2 with Vigilance, but this is just so much cooler, I think, for doing that. I
also think that like part of this cube, I mean, obviously you haven't played any games. I haven't. I know less about the cube than you do, but I think part of the appeal of an environment like this is sometimes you cast Hill Giant and you're pretty jazzed about it.
Yes, yeah. I think that's exactly what I want this to be. Is sometimes a 4-mana 3/3 is actually totally fine, and you're like, great, I have a creature and you don't, and so I'm going to attack you with it.
Right.
Yeah. What about an Illuminator Virtuoso? Here's a double striker that we could sneak in here. It also, conniving is great because I am looking for discard outlets across all the colors. That was part of the reason I was also drawn to Odric Blood Curse too, is the blood tokens are as discard outlets for those cards you can't cast or just suck.
Yeah, I think that this card is strong. I don't know how much you're going to have in the way of spells that can target the Virtuoso. I can see it really getting it out of hand. I'd probably be more interested. I really like the Swiftblade Vindicator here because, like, the whole shtick there is it has double strike, whereas the Virtuoso, there's going to be situations where you connive once and your opponent is going to be in trouble.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I have no idea how many ways I have to target my own creatures right now profitably. But I agree. I think that like the Swiftblade Vindicator to me fits the vibes here more because it is like only half the puzzle. It's like, here's one piece, do something else with it. And this thing is the Swiftblade Vindicator is the entire, for Virtuoso is the entire puzzle as long as you have creatures, any spell that targets it, which I guess is something. It's still asking something of you, but it's asking a lot less of you, I think, than the Vindicator.
Yeah, it's not totally free. It's just something that I would certainly have on like a watch list if you were trying it out.
Yeah. And there's also obviously like, Zatalpa. Stupid.
I hate Zatalpa.
I really don't like Zatalpa either.
Zatalpa hater.
I think it was...
Because like, you're going to get to 8 mana in this cube just because sometimes your cards just suck. And so you make land drops, right?
I think so.
What do you do? What do you do when this thing is in play?
I mean, I hope there's enough removal. It does just die. I know it's indestructible. Never mind. It doesn't die. I lied. I hate this card.
I was going to say, does it? Does it just die?
Forgot about the indestructible. It sucks. Get it out of here. Boo! Yeah, that's no fun. This is a funky indestructible one.
Ooh, that's a cool... I don't remember what it does, but I remember thinking this card was very cool when it came out.
Yeah, it's just cool. And Hybrid Mana also feels right here in that it's just a little more flexible when you can cast cards. Yeah, this is an attack trigger. You flip a top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you gain life equal to its toughest, lose life equal to its power, then put it into your hand. And otherwise, it's a 5-mana indestructible 2/5, which is admittedly a frustrating blocker, but not the end of the world.
I think that's fine, right? Like a 5-mana blocker, if that's your problem, you got a pretty cushy life going on.
Yeah.
I was looking at these other indestructible cards, and I think that there's kind of a problem where there's some combination of too appealing to cast, and then once you cast them, you're never delving them because they're just going to be in play the whole game.
Sure.
This card is at least like mopey enough where you might go out of your way to put it in your graveyard.
I could see that. No, I think you're right, and I think it's a sweet spot too. Being mopey enough for that is cool. Some of the cards that are not mopey that I think are just not going to get there because they're too good, like these new cards like Scavenge Brawler and like Combat Thresher, are just like Combat Thresher especially. I look at this card and I'm like, this card is crazy. The prototype cards on paper are exactly what this cube wants, in that they are mostly colored spells. Like, you mostly want to cast them for their cheaper, much more castable cost, but they have this like expensive colorless buyout mode where it's like, okay, well, if I'm not playing a white deck, I can still play Combat Thresher as like my 23rd playable because I might get a 7 mana. But they're just so pushed on kind of both ends. Like, 3 mana 1/1 double strike draw card is like pretty good, but pretty strong, and then it has a whole other mode attached to it. So I feel like these cards are just they do too much. It's like the classic, modern card design problem of just like a card doing too many things and having too many upsides.
Yeah, I think especially when you're trying to incentivize, or not incentivize, but you're building an environment where you're supposed to get scrappy, and like when the card is just good for 7 mana, or when you're excited, like very excited when you can also cast it for colored mana, it's too free, I would say.
I agree, too free. A card I really want to sneak in here for this archetype is Power Matrix, a favorite card of mine from old school Magic, which it only works with like, it's just like a classic example of something that kind of works with like the other half of the things. Like, it doesn't work with Soulflayer or Chromanticore. I mean, Soulflayer is a creature, so if you don't delve away Chromanticore, you could still give it abilities, but that's not really the point. But what it does work with is a lot of the other things that those cards also work with, like your your Thunderous Orator, or your it's in the edit tab, the Odric, obviously works with that. It also, I think, is
good with anything with double strike. Anything that modifies power is good there.
Anything that already has double strike, like Swiftblade Vindicator, it works with it. I really want people to just Pendlehaven Swiftblade Vindicator. That's like what I want out of this cube more than anything.
Sick.
So yeah, that's another card I'm like trying to fit in, and it's also perfect as like a kind of dopey filler card where like most decks probably aren't taking this very highly, but then you're like, well, shit, I guess I need another playable, so it's colorless. It goes in any deck that has creatures, and then I'm really hoping for that moment of like, oh, actually this card is better than I thought, or like it does more than I thought it did, and I think maybe Power Matrix might be a card that can do that. I'm also gonna maybe put Dragon Blood in here now that I'm saying that. It's a card I always think of alongside Power Matrix as a card that like looks really mopey, and then every once in a while you're like, well, I can't beat Dragon Blood, actually. You're just going to make your stuff bigger every turn. And this plus one counters in and of themselves just work with all the ability counters, right? Like all the ability creatures. So yeah, Dragon Blood and Soulflare Vindicator is kind of a terrifying curve.
Yeah, I can certainly see it taking over some games in an environment like this. And also, I think that when the whole shtick is you have to play most of your cards, like those last 2 to 5 cards being something where you're like, oh, I wish I had something else. I wish I had 19th land, but this is my spell. Like, and then you play games and they actually do something. It's really fun.
Yeah. Okay, let's actually make some changes here. That's the point of this. The things I feel married to, I feel married to the Mimeoplasm. I feel like that's got to go in here. And also shout out to somebody recommended this on YouTube. It was recommended by Arved5537. Thanks, Arved. I feel pretty married to that one because it like crosses over with a couple of other things that the cube is doing.
Can I name 2 cards real quick?
Yeah, do it.
Flamewake Phoenix is a sick one from the standard deck that both gives you keywords and is good if you control a 4/4.
Okay, sure. That looks cool. Yeah, so it's also something you can discard away if you need to, and then you get it back. Sick. What's the second card?
Red Chroma. That one might already be part of your spread, and I don't remember what keywords it has.
That one is so good. It's a Chroma Angel of Fury,
I want to say.
Yeah.
This might be like a little too much, but
it's pretty messed up. Flying Trample, pro white, pro blue, but Soulflayer doesn't care about protection, right?
No, I think that the Cairn Wanderer does, but Soulflayer does not.
This is already going to be the most annoying deck in the... Yeah, Cairn Wanderer does care about protection, as does Death Mask duplicate, right? Yeah, Deathbed Scoop
Mm.
also cares about protection. Yeah, this one is
Okay, but how cool would it be to exile Redichroma to Deathmask duplicate?
so cool. The coolest. That would be very sick. Yeah, I think so. I'm imagining maybe there's going to be part of the morph deck is going to be a deck that can kind of cheat things by morphing them and then flipping them up for, not having to pay the morph cost. Like Astral Slide is currently in here, and I'm wondering how messed up a Chroma is going to be if you get to like morph it and then like Astral Slide it into the next turn, and if I'm okay with that. But it is very cool. And as far as like red top end, like what am I playing right now? Nothing. I have nothing. Literally nothing. So yeah, you know what? We're going to put a Chroma in there too. Let me go main board on that, because I feel very good about a Chroma. Boop.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing where it could conceivably be too strong, but like somebody's going to be excited to do it at least the first time.
And I've always said that, like, as long as the powerful thing is also cool, great. You're doing the cool thing, and that's great. I'm tagging these for my own benefit real quick. We also added Sagu Mauler, which should be down here. And we'll add all of these. You remember what else we added a second ago?
Vampire Nighthawk.
Nighthawk, right.
Did you put in the Sylvan Carry added?
I did add Sylvan Carry added.
Yeah,
I tagged it. Yeah, it's in the maybe board. All right, let's filter again now. Of the white cards, the one I feel best about is the Audric you recommended, I think. Danitha, it would be cool if I also had an aura cheating effect. It is kind of a bummer that you can't cheat Bestow Chromanticore with something like Danitha, because I would totally put like a aura swap or something in here and like have a little like aura swap package if that were a thing, but that's a whole other direction to go down. I definitely think of the white cards, Audric is the one I'm most drawn to. I really like Violent Tumor for this deck and also other decks in this cube, but just the fact that you can never draw the card that you don't want to draw and just put it right in the graveyard, I think is powerful. So this is going to be part of the package too, I think. I'm pretty confident about that.
I also suspect that Death Touch just plays really well here.
Yeah, and it's keyword ability too, so that could come up. I think of the other indestructible cards, Phylactery Lich is maybe one of the coolest ones, where it's like this super janky thing that maybe you can make good, but has this major downside. But then also you can just discard it if you want it indestructible on your creature. Which ones care about indestructible? Did we figure that out actually?
So Soulflayer does
reset. Let's tag.
I know what the Scavengers does. I don't know offhand if the Wanderer does, or I have no idea what the Duplicate cares about.
No one knows. It's unknowable. Yeah, Soulflayer does care about it. Karen Wanderer.
I do like Phylactery Lich feels similar to Sapling of Kulfiner, where like if you're putting it in your deck, you are looking for an exit strategy. Like you are least likely to be trying to cast it.
Yeah, I do like that. I will say I have a couple other really high devotion black cards in the list right now, which makes me think I'm kind of at a little like saturation of that, which makes me lean more towards something like the Sapling. Brash Taunter,
I think if you put the Lich in, it's going to go last in most of the packs that it's in.
There are a lot of artifacts floating around. You think it's that bad?
It's so specific.
Yeah.
Where if you want it, who are you fighting for it?
Okay, fair. That's true. And that's probably a bad thing overall. I think I want people to be fighting over their janky cards, ideally. I do think Karen Wanderer is probably the one. My heart breaks for this. Why can't you care about Vigilance and Lifelink? Ugh.
I enjoy the way that you just have this loathe for the Karen Wanderer outside of the mechanics as well.
Look at his dumb face. How could you not?
He's just a guy. What do you want?
I do kind of vaguely plan to have more Type Matters stuff. I think right now Hacken's the only one. And so you could use Hacken to cast your Karen
That's
Wanderer from the
sick.
graveyard.
If you're like self-milling like indiscriminately and you're like hacking into Karen Wanderer and it has no abilities, that's still pretty sick.
Or you're self-milling indiscriminately and you hack it into Karen Wanderer and you also flip over the Chromanticore. And now you just, you did it all.
Even sicker.
In your mono black deck. All right, fine. I'll put it in. I think it makes sense. I'm also going to put Power Matrix in. This card is too cool. And I also feel very strongly about Soulflayer Vindicator as being like a good fit for this cube. Sagu Mauler, I also really liked. All right, here's a question. What do you think is just more generically, pretend you're doing no weird synergies, no combos, no Soulflayer. What do you think is just the better card to just play and unmorph? Sagu Mauler or Red Achroma?
Like the stronger card?
Yeah, just more powerful, better win percentage.
I think that it is more likely that Sagu Mauler makes decks.
Okay.
Like, I think that if you're playing Red Achroma, you're like morphing it, and it's like a deck that's that heavy in red is usually skewing pretty aggressive. I think that red Achroma is going to push you more into like those weird astral slide spaces where Sagu Mauler, you're just going to play it as a rate and it's going to deliver on that rate consistently.
Yeah. Okay, here's one other card I haven't mentioned yet. I really want to bring Verils in too, which is not as much of a card for this deck, though I think it does still kind of work, like putting all those counters on Soulflayer Vindicator or, something else with a bunch of keywords. But this also has overlap with the Dreadnought deck, obviously. So it checks a lot of boxes. I think also is going to go in.
The card's sweet.
I just dodged the Sagu Mauler question. Yeah, I guess I feel like, to your point, I think this is more likely to just, without any synergy, just carry a whole game, right? You just play this on 3, do whatever on 4, on turn 5 you flip it, and your opponent needs to trade with it in combat now, which might be a tall order for a lot of decks in this environment. Yeah.
5 is less than 6, and GU is less than RRR. It's kind of
for sure.
A lot that naturally swings in Sagu Mauler's favor in playability.
Okay. So if we add Mimeoplasm, Achroma, Violent Tumor, Karen Wanderer, Power Matrix, Soulflayer Vindicator, Verils, I think I feel very confident in saying that like Soulflayer is looking pretty good in this cube at this point, I would say. Alongside just like random keyword abilities. I guess maybe we could do one more keyword ability monster. What's your next favorite one? I imagine you're going to say Nighthawk. I feel like you're a Nighthawk guy.
My first PT qualification was just playing Vampire Nighthawk straight up and extended. So I have a big soft spot for that card.
I love that every card you're like, I registered for this Pro Tour with that card, and I made
like
this Pro Tour with that card.
And I won games with it.
Yeah, I had fun with the card because I beat players that were as good. I beat really good players and won prizes with it.
I beat people who were trying.
Yeah. Yeah, Nighthawk I think is a very strong fair card. Like you just play this on 3, and it does gum up the board quite a bit. I'm trying to think if there's anyone I really like a lot more that I would like go to the mat for, and I don't think there is, at least for the ones I've selected. Like, what does the ability on this even say? This is like an interesting hate piece for the environment. There's going to be a lot of graveyard matter stuff here. This is a Yixlid Jailer cube, famously, and will always be. That card is definitely locked into the final list. So like this could just be really strong.
So I'm not trying to derail this too much.
No, derail.
How does delving for Soulflayer work with the Yixlid Jailer on the battlefield?
God, this is an absolutely fantastic question, and I'm so glad you asked it. Let's just look at Yixlid Jailer to remind ourselves. I think it just says creatures in graveyard lose all abilities, right?
I think, cards in graveyards lose all abilities.
Well, I think
so the question
the thing checks the exile card, right? If a creature card with flying, I imagine it looks at the exiled card, which would have the ability, right?
Was exiled. If a creature with flying was exiled, that's like a past tense verb, which suggests when it was in the graveyard. But I think this is a call of judge moment, and hopes that they're not just an L1.
Doesn't say. In the
my intuition is that you would not get any abilities, but like I could see it going either way.
Yeah, I honestly, I also don't know. That's a great question. I'm sure the commenters will tell us on YouTube which one it is.
It might just be that I'm reading that as a verb when it's just a characteristic defining word that exiled. So yeah, I could definitely see it either way.
I do not know either. Certainly not a judge. Um, all right. So the question is, what's our last stat monster? Vampire Nighthawk is an option. I definitely like Vampire Nighthawk, I think, more than a random indestructible guy, as cute as it is to... I mean, Sapling is very cute. It's so cute.
I'm pretty big on the sapling. I think that that would be a sweet inclusion.
All right, maybe I'm going to make it that one then. The indestructible is so relevant. And both of these do this copies indestructible, and this also copies indestructible, right? No, this one doesn't copy indestructible. Look, you know what I'm doing? I'm taking Karen Wanderer out. I don't... It doesn't get indestructible. And look, we already have the mimeoplasm as like Soulflayer redundancy. So maybe we don't need more than, one or two of those. And then you got Sapling of Calfina, which is very cool. Okay.
It is very cool.
Any other cards you want to like make a strong argument for this package? In this very early stage?
Yeah, like this is a lot of sweet stuff. I think it's the kind of thing where this is a good starting point, and it remains to be seen. The things I'd be watching for in games is like, does it matter how much you juice up the Soulflayer? Is Chromanticore making decks, and are people happy about it? And like, those are going to be independent questions. The Soulflayer, I suspect, is easier to have a lasting home in this environment because it's just way more castable. And just like how much is 4/4 for 2 to 4 mana playing in the environment? And honestly, like just giving that card haste, I think is going to be pretty strong.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would just kind of start it this way. And cards that fill the graveyard are as or sometimes more important than the creatures with ability words as well. So as long as you have like some of the green self-mill effects, and you mentioned there's a lot of like looting and rummaging, I think that stuff really naturally supports it. And like black self-mill, whatever you have in that space, I think would be very useful. Like an undead butler, I would be very happy to have in my Soulflayer deck.
Let's put Undead Butler in the list. I don't have that in the... Do we even have... what's the 1 mana one that mills 3 on ETB and die?
Stitcher's Supplier.
Thank you. That one I think is also a candidate. There's not actually a lot of self-mill right now. There is a ton of looting and a ton of discarding and a little bit of rummaging. Not a ton of actual self-mill, which I could definitely make space for. Like, also, what's the Modern Horizons black cantrip that... One in a black, you look at the top 3, one goes into your hand, the rest go in your graveyard.
I know there's a Final Fantasy card that does that, but it has flashback.
Yes, that card does exist. This one has... The Modern Horizons one has art I don't like.
Morg,
it's very boring
something?
art. That doesn't feel right. No.
No.
All right, who's it? Set... I think it's MH1. Color... Black...
Is this color shifted strategic planning?
Yes.
We used a modern.
Ransack the lab.
That, huh?
Ransack the lab. Okay, ransack the lab and then maybe board 2. That would definitely make a lot of sense, for sure. Okay, do you want to make 9 cuts with me, or
sure.
8 cuts? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's only 7 cuts because it counts edited cards as both being added and removed. A weird thing, which anyway, cuts can be from anything at all that you don't like. You've watched a couple of these videos. What don't you like in this list so far?
Yeah, let's see what's stinky. Of course, when I think of cards I don't like, my eyes drift towards the white column, but you also have the fewest white cards.
As you can, I'm a fellow white card not enjoyer.
Like some of this stuff, even if I don't like it, it's cool. Like I think Edge of Autumn is a card that frustrates me to no end, but it just makes sense in this environment.
Yeah, that's a favorite card of mine, partially because it's so frustrating. It's like often doesn't do what you want it to do, which I especially like in this context. You know what I think I'm going to do? I added Selvala for the Dreadnought package, and I don't think it's necessary anymore now that we're adding stuff like Mimeoplasm and other ways, and Varrols, and it's just kind of generically it does too much on its own, I feel like.
That's a card that I refuse to remember its entire Oracle text as well. It's kind of just too many words that are a little bit incongruous, so I don't like that card either.
Great, it's out. We killed it.
Talk to me about this Oath of Druids.
I have no idea what it's doing right now. I got no clue. I mean, in theory, you could put it in a deck with Laboratory Maniac, and then you can mill a bunch of your cards and find your Laboratory Maniac. I don't know. No, there's definitely a bunch of cards in here that are currently in the I don't know bucket, and Oath of Druids is for sure one of them. Here's a card that I do definitely want to cut. We can come back to the Oath and quite possibly cut that. I want to cut Clone Shell, I think. This was in the early list as like, oh, here's a fun, dumb way you can like put a card that you can't cast into play if it's like off color or whatever. And the more I've just kind of goldfished and like test drafted with these cards, it's like the chances of you hitting one of the cards, like you can't have that many cards you can't cast in your deck. And so the chances of one of them being in the top 4 cards of your library are just too low for this to ever really matter. So I think that one's gone.
Yeah, I think that you would rarely live the dream, but you would
Precisely.
always have a 5-mana 2/2 that you could cast.
Yeah. I mean, it'll flip into something else, probably, but it won't be a thing you couldn't have cast. You could have just played the thing that you were going to draw anyway, so I don't think it does a whole lot. What else don't I like?
Is Death of a Thousand Stings just like for looting value? Are we trying to cast that card? Or
I think it's just for looting value. It is sort of a combo with Deathless Knight in that you can draw your Deathless Knight again once you gain a life, and then you can discard them both. Like, discard them both to Zombie Infestation. Then, well, I guess you have to cast the Death of a Thousand Stings.
I think that specificity is the enemy of this environment.
Yeah, I think this is probably not that good here, to be perfectly honest. I think I might still leave it for now because the art is so cool, and I want it to be good here.
I'm also a Saviors of Kamigawa apologist. Like, I get it.
Yeah. Okay, here's a card I think is maybe just too cracked. Formless Genesis is in here right now, which is ostensibly a payoff for, like, the lands deck, but I think is also just kind of messed up. I also want the Shapeshifter Kindred spells to be cool with Hacken because you can cast them from the graveyard, but you can already cast them from the graveyard with Retrace, so it feels kind of like a hat on a hat to me.
Yeah, I don't think anybody had any strong sentimental attachment to that card.
No, too many hats. Do you think Chivalric Alliance is just way too good here?
Card's busted. The card, like, I have that card. I had that card in a much more powerful cube than this, and it was unacceptably powerful.
Great. It's out. I was worried it'd be too good. I was going to make myself play a couple games with it first, but you've talked me into it. So, done and done. Okay, here's a card. This card just has been done nothing. I like had maybe a little bit of a land sacrifice thing in here, and it's not a thing. That's getting out of here.
Yeah, if you decided you really wanted players to play cards that, like, they won't feel good about, Shard Volley is one of those.
Yeah, they will for sure not feel good about that. We need 2 more cuts. I also... What do you think of this card?
So this is a card that, like, it comes up often in my Scryfall searches, and 4 mana don't impact the battlefield kind of causes me to generally tune it out. It's also, like, I think that when you have some cards you're happy to play and you're scraping for your last few playables, a Tormenting Voice is really nice, but part of that is the agency of it, where this card you're only casting if you hate your entire hand.
Yeah.
Which it's again, we're getting in like this really specific territory, or like you really want like a fully stocked graveyard. And I think that card I would not be too excited to have in my deck of just like rates, like my deck with morphs.
Yeah, a similar-ish card I'm much more excited about is Shadow of the Grave. Like I see them both as like payoffs for discarding cards to one of the many discard outlets that are floating around. But this one I like more because it feels more reasonable to like, okay, I discarded. At only costing 2 mana, you can like afford to discard some other things while paying mana to like make some effect happen, and then you get those cards back. Whereas, yeah, like you said, this is just kind of like a Hail Mary of like, hopefully I draw some good cards, and maybe I had a discard outlet beforehand, but
maybe I'll draw some nice ones, and maybe next turn I can cast them.
Right, and also now that I'm thinking about it, like if you were discarding cards anyway, you were already going to draw cards for those cards you were discarding. Like if you're discarding them for value, I guess it's slightly better because you're not discarding them for nothing. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm off this card. Talk myself out of it. All right, what else don't you like?
Remind me of the text on Artificer's Intuition.
That is survival of the fittest for cheap artifacts, 1 or 0 mana value artifacts.
And you have to discard an artifact card to do it.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate having the volume to activate this card multiple times with any regularity?
Currently, this is your package. Basically, I mean, there's a couple of
reasonably long list.
Couple of colored artifacts floating around that might be not showing up in that list. Like the spell bombs are all in here too. Dispeller's Capsule.
Are any of them like sick to tutor for? Or that's
right now,
like,
no.
You have like Second Sunrise, so you're kind of like gassing that up. Is that something that's like part of the appeal?
I definitely imagine it going in like the eggs deck, and I definitely like eggs a lot and want the like Second Sunrise, Face Reward, Auriok Salvagers, Oswald Fiddlebender deck, but I think it's just kind of worse than all of those at doing that kind of thing. Like if you have a deck full of those cards,
I play it until I already had all that stuff. Whereas other cards, like it's easier to find uses for them.
Talk me into it. Done. All right, that's one cube update made. Thank you for coming in and chatting about this cube. I appreciate it. I feel like I wasted your precious knowledgeable time with how very underbaked this cube idea is, but I think it's very helpful to talk it through with somebody and also get your perspective having played this deck to great success. And you talked me into Odric specifically, and I guess we didn't add Odric to the main deck. Should we do that? Hold on.
Yeah, it's a white card. You need more white cards.
We need more white cards. All right, we gotta make one more cut then, and then we can redo our little outro. What else sucks and is not fun? All right, how about this? What do you think of Dreamscape Artist here? With
that card's sweet.
With the fact that you have to draft all your basics, though, does it become
how many of each basic are there?
Right. Does it become a little more suspect when you are drafting all your basics to cast Harrow over and over again?
It does, but that was an earnest question. How many of each basic are there? Like how many?
Right now, it's a mixed bag. There's more of some, but I think it's always between like 8 and 10. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Maybe it's 12 mountains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 mountains right now. And that number is not at all locked in. That could change. But I definitely do want some basic lands matter stuff to be here. Like I want land tax to be good. I'm like committed to making land tax playable. So like there's going to be enough that you could do it, but you have to be thinking about it. You can't, obviously you have to like be prioritizing basic lands to some degree.
Yeah, so I guess like there's a part of me that does like this you play what you get aspect of the cube. I like that Dreamscape Artist says, hey, you're going to need some basics, and if you fail on that goal, congratulations, you have a 2-mana 1/1.
Right.
I like that.
How about this? Between Greenseeker and Dreamscape Artist is way cooler, right? That's got to be the one.
Oh, yeah, Greenseeker is stinky. It's like...
Boop.
I don't know. That one's just really trying to play like basic Magic. Like I'm going to play this kind of dumpy card because I'll always get to play if I can tutor a couple basics. Whereas the artist is trying to do something like way more aspirational.
Yeah, Dreamscape Artist also really fuels your Terravore too, as you sacrifice lands and also maybe discard extra lands to go get more lands. Yeah, all right, cool. All right, Greenseeker's out. Bones, sorry, that was a Bones recommendation, but I think Greenseeker is not exciting enough for the few slots we have in this cube and in the decks that come from it. Sick. So yeah, Odric, Sapling you talked me into, a Chroma you talked me into, and then I think talking through these other things was really helpful. People should check out 180 MTG. You still writing these days?
No, just the podcast.
Cool. So I'll put a link to 180 MTG in the comments of this, or the description rather, of this video for more Ryan Overturf action. And thanks again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun. Thanks for having me on.
Bye-bye, YouTube.